Baba Sahib Ambedkar tacitly supported that, but he was not actually, he had given up the idea that there could be any reforms possible within Hindu society, and he diverted his attention to the political sphere, which was unfolding lot many opportunities, and this went this thing. Then came the political parlays, that basically the political opportunity was in the form that 1909 and 1916 Congress having had a pact with Muslim League created a communal kind of thing, and British wanted it that way, so that various communities etc. were to be absorbed, and the British always looked at India and they always implied that India was a bunch of communities and there is nothing like a nation there. And along that, even Congress fell prey. These people were hungry for power, and they had a pact whereby Muslim League had separate electorates and things like that. By 1916, pact between Tilak representing Congress and Jinnah representing League. So this opened up an opportunity. Lot many communities were excluded, because India, if you communally define India, then it was not only Muslim and Hindus. You know, there were other communities too. So Sikhs were incorporated later on because they had a stronger voice. And the opportunity Baba Sahib Ambedkar perceived was in terms of establishing that Dalits were a community. Now you grant us as a community, and the rest of the things would follow. Because once it is done, then you could start negotiating anyway with these mainstream parties for your share. So that was the approach, and which he almost got in the Round Table Conference in contention with Gandhi. That is approximately known. So he got separate electorates, and Gandhi sort of blackmailed him into agreeing to Pune Pact, which in return Baba Sahib got more kinds of seats, etc. But the separate electorate had gone away, and then Congress agreed to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kind of things that they said that we would devote to this thing. This was happening. Now, after Round Table Conference, the dissolution power to Indians, etc., the 1935 Act came, and 1935 Act for provincial elections would be sort of done with a popular vote. The elections were announced to be held in 1937. 36, Baba Sahib forms ILP, Independent Labour Party. Was quite model after the Labour Party of Britain, which was again a Fabian party, right? This, if you look at ILP, it's a chapter which has been deliberately torn from books. I normally get the impression that people have thrown away those pages. You would not find much discussed about ILP. It's a short-lived experience, but it's not as short-lived also. 1936 it gets formed and runs for 6 years. 6 is a long period in any movement's history, and there are a lot of things that have happened of immense value that I would underline, and people have almost forgotten that chapter. 36 to 42, nobody knows whatever that has happened. ILP's manifesto does not utter caste. Can you believe? So Ambedkar is characterized as something like taking cudgels only for Dalits, etc. It does not speak of caste. Times of India introduced him, he defines ILP as a working class party. ILP adopted red flag as its flag later. So these are the salient things I am just trying to sensitize you with, that you can explore later on whatever details there are in that. Now, during this period, 1930 to 1942, Ambedkar appears to be speaking very radical language, almost a communist language. He comes closer to all these. You say that our enemy is capitalism and Brahminism, all these statements, etc. comes within that period. And he looks at things with very positively. The greatest thing that I see personally is that Ambedkar demonstrated on the roads of Bombay that class and caste could be combined together and the struggles could be waged for the people's emancipation. One of the things is his anti-Khoti agitation. Something like 30,000 people from Konkan area, which is the most casteist area in Maharashtra, the Kunbis and Mahas marched together hand in hand. They would not see eye to an eye, and they marched together on Bombay roads in that procession. So this was the biggest demonstration and probably unique one in history of India. Dalits, or nobody talks about, communists will never talk about that then anyway, but Dalits also have forgotten that. And this is the greatest kind of experiment which goes unnoticed. The bigger question is, during that time, again as a part of a formal history, that Ambedkar supported 1938 strike, the big strike that had happened, textile strike that happened in Bombay with communists. He led the strike. Okay. In 28, there was one of the first textile strike that was announced by communists. The communists actually owned up the entire working class space, and they had a Girni Kamgar union out there, and they had announced what used to happen in textile mills, that Dalits did not have an entry into weaving department. Weaving department where the salaries were more and facilities were better and all, the working conditions were better. So Dalits, because of that, I think the thread that breaks, is to be joined with your Salapa, and because of that, because of the notion of untouchability, Dalits were forbidden in weaving department. And so many things used to be the part of practicing textile mills of those times which smacked of untouchability. Like in some mills there were separate pots of drinking water kept for Dalit workers. And there was not real communication between that. So when Ambedkar came on scene in the wake of 1928 strike, he threatened the communists that you better mind this way, they should go away, otherwise I will break the strike. Because there was sizable population of Dalits in the Girni Kamgar then. So that was a palpable threat anyway. Problem is, now it starts how communists look at the Dalit issues. These people, the agitation of Dalit workers was going on. The demand was in the air for quite few years. For some years there was a demand, but nobody paid any heed. After Ambedkar threatens directly that he will break the strike, still the response is very, very lukewarm. Reluctantly communists agree, okay, we'll do it. But that lingers on. It does not happen in 28. It slowly goes away, and the evidence of that is that even 30s, etc., early 30s, there are still some mills wherein Dalits were not allowed. So this was going on. So despite a distinct kind of extension of hand by Ambedkar to the left in 30s, there was no response on that. 38, there was he came so much closer. Still, there is not much of a response. It was just one-sided that Ambedkar was extending hand, because he clearly saw that if this happens, the Dalits and the working class comes together, things would be, then you can threaten the establishment anyway. So much easier than otherwise. So this was his viewpoint. But the communists always took a doctrinal approach. And where does it come from? If you can, I always sort of think, what they thought is that whatever the books, etc., used to be smuggled those days, that was the Bible for communists. Who were the communists? Mostly, if you take, see them in a caste angle, then all belong to Brahmin. Such kind of things are natural. So there is nothing to read so much about in that, but that was the thing. Problem is with the attitude. Having adopted the radical thinking of Marxism, etc., there had to be some improvement in that. But they took entire Marxism and see it from a Brahminical viewpoint. The word was taken, whatever that was written, was taken as a Veda Vakya, and they interpreted in their own manner. The significant thing, and which is important to us, is the class analysis that they constitute here. Now, to have any communist movement, the basic is a class analysis. How do you look at the society? What kind of classes there are? So how do they look at? They took the molds. Now, as regards class, Marx never defined class. Marx went on, but there are lot many undefined terms that he plays with. So that is what the style of writing of Marx. There are many things you have to sort of interpret. Probably you can write on each term, etc., from picked up from various things and write prepare the books. So class assurance like that. The Marxian class is not defined by Marx. Lenin was confronted for first time to translate Marxist theory into revolution, tactical revolution. So he had that anxiety and he had to define class in Russian context. And first definition comes from Lenin. What is the I have a definition of Lenin and it's easily available also on web, so you can take it from pick it from that. Better I think I can read it for you that much.